Okay, good. Hi, my name is Fred Wickling, and I'm a certified instructor with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. The Napoleon Hill Foundation is the foundation for the gentleman that wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. And I don't know if you can zoom in here, if you can see this, but this is actually a 1937 copy of Think and Grow Rich. So the next 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, what I'm going to do is talk about this book as an instructor and why I think people should pick up this book, read it. And a matter of fact, just to start off, you can get this book online, download it for free. You just have to do a little searching for it, but the name of the book is Think and Grow Rich. And the reason why I want to talk about Think and Grow Rich, because this book I read about 40 years ago, and the book changed my life. This is another copy of it. This is a signed copy from Napoleon Hill, but the reason I pulled this out is because it says, "For men and women who resent poverty." So this book is about thinking and growing rich, but it's not only just financial riches, it's personal riches. What I want to do is, in 1937, when Napoleon Hill wrote this book, what he did, he studied the 500 most successful people in the world, in the United States. Andrew Carnegie said, who happened to be the richest man in the world at the time, said, I have a lot of friends that are very successful, and I'm trying to figure out why they're so successful. And Napoleon Hill, at the time, he was a reporter, and so he interviewed over 500 people, and he took their ideas and he assembled it in his book. And so that's why this book is fascinating. Not only is this book a fantastic book, but they say that this book, aside from the Bible, is the second most published book in the world. And the reason why is because there's no copyright laws and anybody can reproduce this book. So as an instructor with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, I just want to show you several copies of this book. This was the first hard copy, soft copy that I got and that I wore out. This is a 1937 original. This is a signed autographed copy by Napoleon Hill. And then this is a reproduction of Napoleon Hill that came out last year, and it was done specifically for a company. So a lot of different books. Since it's not copyrighted, anybody can reproduce that book. So you'll see it in many different forms, but the material is all the same. Now, what was interesting about Napoleon Hill, after studying all these people, what he did, he came out with 17 principles. This book has like 13 principles in it. And what I want to do is just kind of talk about some of those principles. If anybody wants to be successful, if you don't have any principles, if you don't have a starting point, the reason why I like this book, because the first principle that Napoleon Hill talks about is having a definite purpose. And having a definite purpose means figuring out where you're going to go. So most people say, hey, I don't have money to buy gas, I don't have money for food. But Napoleon Hill says, what is your destination? Where do you want to be when it's all said and done with? Maybe on your obituary. I have accomplished. What have you accomplished? So, and it doesn't matter. He says it doesn't matter if you have any resources. He says you just have to have a purpose. And once you have a purpose, if you use all the other 17 principles, then you will reach your destination. And again, success is a journey. It's not something instantly. You can't download it. You can download the book, but you can't download the knowledge. So you have to experience it. So the first principle, again, is definite purpose. And when he talks about in this book, he kind of says in this book, if you read this book, he says there are so many success secrets that if you read it, sometimes it will jump out with you directly. Sometimes you have to read the book 20 or 30 times before you get it. But the secret that I learned about this book is that it's all about using all the principles together and creating the habit of success. And so my suggestion is, when you pick up this book, not only just pick it up and read it, but you got to study it. And so every day read something about this book. So definite purpose. For anybody who wants to have riches in life, what is your definite purpose? Is it, do you want to win? Do you want to win gold medals? Do you want to win playing football? We just finished a Super Bowl. Do you want to win a Super Bowl champion? Do you want to heal somebody? Do you want a gift? Do you want to create a foundation? Whatever you desire. Do you want to build a bridge? So Napoleon Hill says you have to create a desire. And the way that you build up your desire by reading it. You know, the more you think about something, the more you want it. You know, have that obsession where you simply just daydream about it. We've all done that. How many people have daydreamed about getting something for Christmas? A bicycle, an iPhone, an iPad, a new car. And if you have that desire, people even talk about having a vision book or a vision board. And the more you think about what you want, the sooner you'll get it. You know, have an obsession. So and that's what this book about is Think and Grow Rich. Now, after you have your definite purpose, and it may take you a while to get a definite purpose. If you say, I don't want to be poor, okay, that's a definite purpose, but to put it in a positive way, you can say, hey, I want to have $1 million in the bank at a certain age. And that's what he talks about, a definite purpose, a goal, a set time. You can say, I want to retire, not have to work ever anymore. You can say, I want to win the lotto ticket. I really believe that, as this book states, thoughts are things. I have a friend of mine who is a professional gambler, and he just won a lotto ticket for $3 million. I don't recommend that everybody does that, but he felt it, he believed it, and he got it. And so that's just an example of setting goals. So that's what Napoleon Hill talks about, definite purpose. Some of the stories that he talks about definite purpose, I want to go in here. And he talked about the first step to riches is to have that desire. So that desire, whatever you want, is it a college degree? Is it a high school diploma? Is it a new house? Whatever it is, you got to have that desire and build that desire. Then the second step, he says, you have to have faith. And faith is really believing and acting like you're already in the possession of having it. You know, can you sit there and see yourself being rich? Can you see yourself in a new car? Can you see yourself with a diploma? Can you see yourself having your kids graduate? It's all seeing and believing. The more you say it, it doesn't matter where you are, and that's one of the things I liked about this book. It doesn't matter where you are. What matters is where you're going to go. Keeping your eyes on the prize. So definite purpose is the beginning. And one of the things he says, you know, most people go through life without a definite plan. It's like being a ship on an ocean without a rudder. And whatever way the wind blows, the winds of circumstance, that's the way you go. It's kind of interesting. A lot of things happen to us, but what's important is not what happens to us, because the same thing happens to all of us, but it's what we do about what happens to us. And I really believe by reading this book, you'll be prepared for opportunities. And when you see an adversity, one of the things in the books talks about adversity. When you have an adversity, most people don't grow from that situation. And this book talks about when you have an adversity, learn from that. And I have a saying, let your adversities be your stepping stones. So if you had a lot of adversities, start thinking, wow, what could happen from it? They say in the history of baseball, Babe Ruth was the home run hitting king. But I also know he holds the record for striking out. And people remember your winnings, and they don't really remember your losses. And so it doesn't matter how many times you try, it just matters how many times you succeed. And in this book too, it talks about Edison when he invented the light bulb. They said he tried over 10,000 times to create the light bulb. And then some reporter says, you failed 10,000 times. He said, no, I found 10,000 ways not to create a light bulb. And that's what I call positive thinking. And that's what Napoleon Hill was about, is to think different. You know, how you look at a situation. I learned in life that when everybody goes this way, when the crowd goes one way, just go the other way. Don't follow the crowd. And learn how to think different. Learn how to think out of the box. We heard that old saying, how can we make lemonade out of lemons? You know, when you have lemons, what can you do with them? Make lemonade. So that's what the first principle of Napoleon Hill is. Now the second principle is called Mastermind Alliance. And Napoleon Hill says in life that whatever success we want, we cannot just do it on our own. We need somebody else. And a good example is, today, in order for me to get this message to you, I need Jeff, the cameraman, to take the video. And then we need CMAP to upload that. And then we need you to see it and hopefully tell other people about it and pick up the book. That's how it all starts. And it's called masterminding, sharing. What I'm doing this here today is downloading information that I have as a reader of the book, living the book for over 40 years, and sharing the information. And so I'm excited about that in the book, and I hope and I encourage you that, you know, like I said, go online, look up free download copy and download the book, and start doing what the book tells you to do. So Mastermind Alliance is one of the hardest things to accomplish, to have major success. But I was just watching a special on Edison, the inventor, the other day, and he didn't create all these inventions by himself. He had a whole staff. He had different inventors that helped him create what he needed to create. And the same with you. And it could start with as easy as a husband and wife, a brother and sister, friends. A good example is Jeff. Jeff wanted to learn how to video. I wanted to speak and get messages out. He studied video. He has computer experience. And right now, he's still learning the camera. And what we're doing is we're putting this out on public broadcasting so that I can work on my skill and I can practice. It's kind of funny, just a joke, but everybody practices. And, you know, I went to the doctor recently and I realized that doctors really, they practice. They call it a medical practice. And when you have an attorney and when you have a court case, they practice too. They call it a legal practice. So in order to be successful, you got to practice. Just watching the Super Bowl, what do professional athletes do? They practice. So my suggestion is, if you haven't done anything else, just practice reading this book. Ideas will come. Napoleon Hill says in his book, thoughts are things. And so if you put good thoughts in your head, it's amazing what will come out of it. When you have two people thinking the same thoughts, or three people, it's like a table. I always use the example of a table. If I want to move a table by myself, it's very hard to do. If you have two people doing it, it makes it easier. But if you have four people carrying a table, it makes it really easy. And that's a good example of masterminding. Any project, just think in the world. Everybody wants to accomplish and be successful, and a lot of people want to do the same things. But just think, if you can get a group of people together, working on the same task, and accomplishing the goal at a certain time. And that's what masterminding is about. So again, one of the things that we're doing as we speak is I'm working with a group of people that work with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and we are creating masterminds online. It's in the working stages, but what we're trying to do is get people all over the world that one person has a talent, The other person maybe has the financial means. The other person maybe has the equipment. The other person has the distribution. And you put things together and it's wow. The example of masterminding that I like to use is maybe say building a house. Just think if you had 4 people or 5 people that were in the construction trade and they said, hey, let's build a house, and we all throw in our own labor and we all throw our remnant material in building a house. So the foundation person has plenty of concrete, lays the foundation. The subcontractor, as far as the framing is concerned, has a lot of wood, does the framing, sheetrock, the roofer. They all throw their efforts together, and lo and behold, you have a house. Now you have added value, you have sweat equity, and now if you wanted to, you can sell it and make money, or you can keep doing that. So if you do that 5 times, everybody can have a house for free. So that's a good example of masterminding. So I'm going to leave the mastermind. So the first one, again, to reiterate, is having a definite purpose, and the second one is to have a mastermind. And like I said, start working on creating a mastermind. And one thing I want to say about mastermind before I leave, it's always good to have one person get another person, and then have the 2 people decide on the 3rd person, and then have the 3rd person decide on the 4th person. And the mastermind is suggested to keep it at 6 people. Now, masterminding and teamwork are 2 different things, and we'll go into teamwork a little later. But mastermind is just people coming together to think of a way to make a better mousetrap, to make a better car, and then the team is to implement that. So the 3rd principle that Napoleon Hill talked about in his book is applied faith. And applied faith means believing that you're going to accomplish your goal even if you don't have the necessary resources. Jim Rohn, the motivational speaker, said, if you say, I'm going to do this or die, he says, time and circumstance make a hasty conference. And he said, we better give it to Fred, because do you know how hard it is to die? So, you know what I was saying, I'm going to do or die, is that desire and that commitment. And that's what that applied faith is. The applied faith is believing that you already have that in possession. Napoleon Hill talks about if you want to have a goal of monetary value, one of the things you should do is put on your calendar, and let's take, for example, that since this is February, that on December 31st, 2015, you desire X amount of money. That's what your definite goal is. So you put a specific date, a specific amount, and a specific time. Now, between now and the end of the year, you should check your progress. Come the end of February, you should say, hey, you know, if I desire to have $100 in my account by December 31st, I should have at least $20,000 in the bank at the end of February. If you don't, you got to figure out what you need to do to get that. And if your goal is $1,000, that's $100 a month. If you want $10,000, you know, that's $800 a month. So that's what we say about setting goals, and then you have to make sure you check your progress. But applied faith means, you know, think like you have it already in possession. And one of the things they say about faith, don't worry about it. Just keep working towards it. Just keep working towards it. And I remember the story I want to tell you about my first Mercedes that I wanted after reading this book. I wanted a new Mercedes, and I put it on the goal. I went to the Mercedes-Benz dealer, and you can go to any car dealer and get a brochure on the car that you want. And then take a picture of that car and put it on your board and look at it all the time. Then the next thing what I did is, using applied faith, is say to myself in affirmation form, I have a Mercedes. I, Fred, have a Mercedes. I have a Fred, a Mercedes. By the time I was 27 on my birthday, March 11th is when I want to have my Mercedes. And I kept saying that over and over. I have a Mercedes. I have a Mercedes. I have a Mercedes. I didn't know how I was going to get it, but I kept saying it and kept saying it. And lo and behold, in 1979, March 8th, I drove off the lot with a brand new Mercedes. And then since then, I've had other Mercedes. And one of the things about goal setting is that once you achieve the goal one time, then it becomes easier and easier the second time. And so that's the neat thing about goal setting, having a goal, having a team helping you, having that applied faith. Now, the next one that Napoleon Hill talked about, the next principle, number 4, is called going the extra mile. And going the extra mile is a little difficult concept to work on. And the reason why I say that is because in life, going the extra mile is doing volunteer work, helping other people. And I always say, like if you were a runner or exercise, if you're supposed to go the extra mile, well, most people don't even go the first mile. So how can you go the extra mile if you can't go the first mile? So what I want to say is the extra mile for me was a little harder. So my suggestion is that you figure out how you volunteer, how you can help other people by volunteer groups. And I think by doing that, it makes it so much easier. If you help other people attain what they want, then you can get what you want. There's a saying that goes, if you want whatever you want, if you can help enough people get what they want, then you can get what you want. So, and hopefully, my goal is to help a lot of people pick up this book, and I hope that I'm succeeding. And again, it's not going to cost you anything to download this book, but if you're stuck and down and out and you're looking for hope and you want to get out from underneath the rut that you're in, if it's just your job situation, if it's your financial situation, if it's your creative situation, if you want to get a book out, if you want to get a tape out, a CD, if you want to start a business, whatever you want to desire, it's Think and Grow Rich. So I want to move to going the extra mile is, let me read what it says right here. It's going the extra mile is an action of rendering more and better service than which you are paid for presently. When you go the extra mile, the law of compensation comes into play. This is the universal law. Neither permits any living thing to get something for nothing, nor allows any labor to go unwarranted. You'll find that in Mother Nature goes the extra mile every time she does. She does not create just barely enough for each gene or species. She produces an overabundance to take care of all emergencies that arise and still have enough left over to guarantee perpetuation of each life form. So that's going the extra mile from nature. So that's the 4th principle. So in going to the 5th principle, and this is having a pleasing personality. And this is something that I think I had to work on. When I was small, people used to say, I have an attitude. And I'm going, I have an attitude. You have an attitude, And working on a pleasing personality is really to learn about yourself. And one of the things I want to do right now is to tell you what I learned from Think and Grow Rich, is that in life, we either have a positive attitude or a negative attitude. And I could never realize that. And I never knew the importance of that. But if you start being in the positive, you can see people being negative. And what I want to do is I want to show you how Napoleon Hill talks about being positive. And so this book right here is the teacher's course for the 17 principles, but it says PMA. And PMA stands for Positive Mental Attitude. And taking this course and reading this book and teaching it, I really learned how we realize that sometimes we're negative and we think we're positive. You know, we think we're the most positive person in the world, but if you look at it in a total perspective in the world situation, or when you read this book, then you can say, is this positive or negative? And let me give you some of the things that we don't realize that we say negative by just the things that we say. We'll say to your child or, to somebody that you'll say, could you hand me a glass of water? And then you say, but don't spill it. Now, I never thought that was negative. But if you really think about it, a lot of people spill it, and then you say, well, I told you not to spill it. But you didn't realize that you gave that person a negative command, and the subconscious mind picked it up. Yeah, and that's what Napoleon Hill talks about too, is understanding our subconscious mind and how we say it. A friend of mine the other day asked me to bring my battery charger, and she says, don't forget to bring your battery charger. And I'm going, wow, don't is negative, forget is negative, and if we don't realize it, we'll forget and go, oh, I forgot, and we didn't realize that we gave somebody that negative command. Pleasing personality is always having a smile. Most of us don't realize that we frown a lot of times. And I heard that a good way that somebody cured themselves a long time ago is by just smiling to themselves and cured themselves out of cancer. A good way having a pleasing personality is by reading the book by Norman Vincent Peale. And that book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I always say or heard the saying that it's so much easier to get somebody to do a favor by giving them a little bit of honey than giving them vinegar. So if you're nice to somebody, you can get something nice in return. And we also call this the law of reciprocating. If you do good for somebody, the universe somehow takes care of you and will do good for you. And I don't know how that works, but it works. So having a pleasing personality. Pleasing personality is the sum total of one's mental, spiritual, and physical traits, and the habits that distinguish one from all others. It is the factor that determines whether one is liked or disliked by others. Your personality is the greatest asset or liability. It embraces everything you can control, your mind, body, and soul. Some characteristics of a pleasing personality include positive mental attitude, flexibility, sincerity, prompt action, courtesy, tactfulness, a pleasing tone, smile, and tolerance. So that was the number 5, and I'll kind of recap here again. Definite of purpose being number 1, mastermind alliance number 2, applied faith number 3, going the extra mile number 4, pleasing personality is number 5. Now I'm going to go to number 6, and number 6 says having personal initiative. And personal initiative is get started, do it now. Like the Nike commercial says, do it now. What are you waiting for? Pick up this book, do it now. Take action. If not this book, take another action. Again, question is, did you have New Year's resolutions? Did you work through those New Year's resolutions in January? Or should you take action now? Should you take that personal initiative? This is February 2nd, 2015. Are you still on your goals or on your off your goals? I want to say I'm definitely on my goal because Jeff is here taping and we're doing what we said we're going to do. We're recording and getting material out. So, personal initiative. There are 2 types of men, said Andrew Carnegie, who never amount to anything. One fellow who never does anything except that which he is told to do, and the other fellow who never does more than what he's told to do. The man gets ahead, does the thing that he should be done without being told what to do. but does not stop there. He goes the extra mile. He goes by doing a great deal more than he's expected or demanded. Personal initiative is the power that inspires completion of what one begins. It is the power that starts all action. No person is free until he learns to do his own thinking and gains the courage to act on his own personal initiative. It is the twin brother of going the extra mile. So personal initiative, getting started, is one of the hardest things to do, but I don't know who said it. Somebody said that the law of motion, once something is in motion, we'll keep going in motion. So getting started, that's half the battle, getting started. So I encourage you to pick up this book, Think and Grow Rich, and read about these items. Again, there isn't a book in the world that I think is as concise as this book to get you into success. And so if you're stuck, you want to get out of a rut, you don't have a brother, you don't have a rich uncle, you don't have anybody, you say there's nobody in the world that cares. Napoleon Hill cared, and that's why he wrote the book. If you listen to some of the tapes that Napoleon Hill says, he says, even if I pass away, after I pass away, generations upon generations are going to become successful. And everybody I talked to and interviewed that had made any great success has read this book. And anybody that's still trying to be successful will read this book over and over. And you can go online to the website. There's much information on Napoleon Hill. He's got a lot of books and material out. And again, just to make it commercial for the Napoleon Hill Foundation, you can go online and go www.naphill.com, and that's the Napoleon Hill Foundation website to get more information on Napoleon Hill. I want to move to the seventh principle, and that's positive mental attitude. And positive mental attitude, I think, is a lifelong struggle that everybody needs to deal with. And the reason why is because we have world forces, the law of gravity just pulling us down. It seems like every time you turn around, something tries to knock us off our goal, our definite purpose. In our road, there's roadblocks, there's hazards, there's fallen trees, there's water damage. There's always obstacles. And again, I mentioned that these obstacles are your stepping stones, but that's the road to success. And so keeping a positive mental attitude wins games. Looking adversity in the face and saying, I'm going to win. Regardless of what happens, if you look like you're lost, the game isn't over until it's over. So you keep trying. And how many times do you have to try? How many times do you have to get up after you fall down? You only need to succeed once. And like Edison, just think about it, if Edison didn't try 10,000 times to create the light bulb, we wouldn't have light today. And just think how beneficial light is. And again, interesting that we're talking, as seeing the special, did you know that Edison was the first one that invented the camera, the moving camera? Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, look at the history. Edison.
I did know that he invented the electric chair.
Yeah, he did. He did invent the electric chair. Yeah, he had a lot of inventions. The telephone, but the camera. The camera was powerful. So, and again, I say it was his team, but it was his mastermind. And interesting, when Napoleon Hill wrote this book, it was around the time of Edison and Carnegie in the beginning of the century. So he had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing Edison. So that's why this book was special, beginning of the 1920s and 30s when all this happened. Positive mental attitude. It is the right mental attitude in all circumstances. Keep your mind on the things you want and off the things you don't want. And this is really important, I'm going to say this again, keep your mind on the things that you want and off the things that you don't want. And so, by profession, I'm a real estate agent. And so people will come to me and I'll go, well, what do you want in a house? And they go, well, I know what I don't want. I don't want a swimming pool. I don't want a two-story. I don't want 5 bedrooms. And again, I talked about positive thinking and negative thinking. We don't realize when we talk about what we don't want. And so if a message comes across today is learning what we want and not what we don't want. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. It's important. So be very careful what you set your heart on, for you'll surely achieve it. And what's that old saying? Be careful what you ask for, because you'll get it. It's like people say, they give their kids some money and they say, here, don't lose it. And then the kid comes back crying, what happened? I lost the money. Well, I told you not to lose it. See, that's that negative things, but keep this safe. Keep it so you can always know where it is. That's that positive mental attitude. Success attracts more success, while failure attracts more failure. That's why it's very important to think positive. This principle presents the means by which the entire philosophy can best be assimilated and put into practical use. You cannot get the most out of other 16 principles without understanding and applying this one. So the positive mental attitude is the ingredients that fits all these 17 principles. And you got to have a positive mental attitude. What I want to do right now is talk about the things I learned from having a positive mental attitude. And the simplest way to create a positive mental attitude that I found out, Jeff, is by having people look up. If you're down, if you look up, you can't have a negative attitude. And so if nothing else, start looking up. Start looking up. You have positive thoughts. And it's kind of interesting, it's that people that are depressed have a tendency to look down. And it's almost like your computer, wherever your cursor is where your thoughts is. So if you move your cursor down, you're going to get whatever's on the menu down here. But if your cursor's up, you're going to get on the menu what's up there. So looking up, having a positive mental attitude, thinking the best outcome, thinking the impossible. That's what positive mental attitude's all about. Watching what you say, and to me is watching what you think or listening to what you think. What we say to ourselves. And this is really positive mental attitude, is what we say to ourselves is, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. And that's why I like affirmation, which is a different topic, but Napoleon Hill talks about what you say to yourself over and over. And in some of the other tapes that we've done is we talked about saying, I'm a winner, I'm a winner, I'm a winner, I'm a winner, I'm a winner. Like I said earlier, I have a Mercedes, I have a Mercedes, I have a Mercedes. Start doing those things. Those are positive mental attitudes. So thinking about it when you leave this recording, think about it as you go away. Am I having positive thoughts or negative thoughts? And that's where the beginning of being positive starts, where success starts happening. Saying to yourself, yeah, I can own a house. I can own a new car. I can have health. I can have a cruise. I can go to the moon. I can go travel to the world. I can see all those things. Instead of saying, I'll never have, or what's that saying that people say, Murphy's Law, if something bad can happen, it will happen. See? Or what's that saying is, the internal pessimist says, if you give him a choice between two evil, the internal pessimist says, I'll take them both. Wow. Or is the glass half full or half empty? How we look at the situation. One of the good things you can do is walk away from this recording is from now on, when something appears negative, say, that's good. So you get a flat tire on the freeway and you're late for work, and you say, hey, that's good. So you get that parking ticket, you say, oh, that's good. Figure out what good can come from it. So you missed your flight. Say, that's good. You know, I used to listen to a motivational speaker, and he says, turn frustration into fascination. You know, say you have to be at the airport 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's 10 minutes to 6, and, you know, you can't turn around on the freeway. Just get fascinated. Say, wow, I'm stuck on the freeway. Thinking positive, yeah. So I want to conclude with the positive mental attitude is, to me, it encompasses everything that Napoleon Hill talks about, and it's really important that we constantly keep aware of our thoughts. And as we go through life, it's saying, hey, is this positive, is this negative? Is this positive, negative? And as energy and currency and electricity, it's either positive or negative. And so most of our lives are probably negative if we're not aware of it. And if we become conscious of it, we can be in the positive. And that's really the message. So I want to go to principle number 8, and that's enthusiasm. And one of the things that I learned about enthusiasm is that you got to have the right amount of enthusiasm. Too much of anything is not good. And so enthusiasm should be learned and used properly. Enthusiasm is faith in action. Enthusiasm comes from the Greek word en, which means in theos, which means God. So enthusiasm is having God within you. It's an intense emotion known as the burning desire. So if you have an enthusiasm for your goal, you have that burning desire for your goal. Enthusiasm comes from within, although it radiates outwardly, and is the expression of one's voice and countenance. Enthusiasm is the power because it's the instrument by which adversities and failures and temporary defeats may be transmuted into action backed by faith. Enthusiasm is the flame, the burning flame within you that turns on your action. So that's enthusiasm. So what I like to do is we went to the first 8 principles of success: definite purpose, mastermind alliance, number 2, applied faith, number 3, going the extra mile, number 4, pleasing personality, number 5, personal initiative, 6, positive mental attitude, 7, and enthusiasm, number 8. So I want to conclude this segment of Discovering Yourself with Fred. What I also want you to do is go to discpeople.com. That's www.discpeople.com to get more information about myself. Thank you. Welcome to this segment of Discover Yourself with Fred. And this is the second part of the segment that we're taping for Think and Grow Rich. And we talked about Napoleon Hill has 17 principles. And on the first segment, we talked about the first 8 principles. And just to kind of go over for those people that didn't get it, Napoleon Hill, in his classic book written in 1937, is to help people get out of poverty. It talks about financial riches, but it talks about spiritual, mental, and physical riches. And he says thoughts are things, and whatever you desire in life, you can have. So in our last segment, the 17 principles, the first principles that we went over was definite purpose. And it says you have to have a definite purpose in life. That's the starting point for all success. And to be really successful, you should create a mastermind, and you should have at least 5 to 6 people, and you should be very, very selective in creating your mastermind to get your definite purpose. You have to have applied faith, and your faith has to be really strong. And faith is like a muscle that you have to develop. The more you develop your faith, the stronger your muscle gets. Going the extra mile is the habit of working and doing things, doing more than what you're getting paid for. And life, in turn, universe will give you back abundance. The next one was pleasing personality. That is to work on your personality, that you can attract people, success. People will gravitate with you with having a pleasing personality. Personal initiative. That means getting rid of the procrastination habit and doing things now, things now. The next one that we talked about, number 7, was having a positive mental attitude, and that's the ingredients for all the 17 principles. Is you either positive or negative, and you just have to remember that. Then the last thing we talked about last time was enthusiasm. That was the 8th principle. And so today's lesson, I'd like to start and jump in right away. We're going to take self-discipline. And self-discipline is the 9th principle that Napoleon Hill talks about, and it's the most important principle in my mind, and the reason why is that it all starts with yourself. And you have to have discipline to achieve anything. If you want to become a musician, if you want to be a mechanic, if you want to be a cameraman, if you want to be a speaker, if you want to be success, it takes discipline. It says getting into good habits. Discipline is having a good habit. And I'm going to read what he says right here. Discipline means taking possession of your own mind. Self-discipline begins with the mastery of thought. If you do not control your thoughts, you cannot control your needs. Self-discipline calls for balancing of the emotions of your heart with reasoning and the faculty of your head. It is the bottleneck through which all your personal power for success must flow. Direct your thoughts, control your emotions, and ordain your destiny. As our culture has become more complex, the need for self-control has increased. So self-control, self-discipline is very important. What you eat, what you read, what you do. You got to have that self-discipline. We're going to the next one is accurate thinking. Accurate thinking is like having common sense. And we say that that's common sense, but a lot of times we think things is very common, and it's not common. It's, people don't really understand what accurate thinking is. Accurate thinking is having a definite plan and following your plan. That's what accurate thinking is. Accurate thinking is using your calculator. Accurate thinking, let's talk about accurate thinking. The power of thought is the most dangerous or the most beneficial power available to man, depending on the course upon how it's used. Through the power of thought, man builds great empires and civilizations. Through the same power, other people trample down empires as they were helpless clay. Thought is the only thing over which man has given the complete privilege of control. The accurate thinker always submits an emotional desire and decisions to his head for judiciary examination before he relies upon them as being sound, for he knows his head is more dependable than his heart. The accurate thinker separates facts from fiction and separates facts as in 2 classes, important and unimportant. And so I think it's important to us to realize if we're thinking accurate or not. And what I usually do is check with other people. And in our discovery process, we talk about the 4 different personality types. And so to talk directly to somebody, to accurately think, is to accurately communicate with the right personality. And knowing your personality. Are you reserved or outgoing? That's all part of accurate thinking. And in our discovery process, we will work on getting more accurate thoughts. Number 11 is control the tension. And controlled attention is something that a lot of people are not aware of. I have ADD and I get easily distracted, and I have to work on controlled attention. And so I'm going to read controlled attention, which is number 11, which is my favorite number. Controlled attention leads to the mastery in any type of human endeavor because it enables one to focus on the powers of his mind upon the attainment of the definite objective and to keep it so directed at will. Great achievements come from the minds that are at peace with themselves. Peace within one's mind is not a matter of luck, but a priceless possession, which we can be attained only self-discipline is based upon controlled attention. Concentration on one's mind is the major purpose, projects a clear picture of the purpose for the conscious mind. So we need to edit that, and says, concentration on a man's major purpose projects a clear picture of what purpose upon the conscious mind and holds it there until it's taken over by the subconscious mind and is acted upon. Controlled attention is very important, and we'll talk more about that through meditation and affirmations. Number 12 is what I want to talk about is teamwork. And teamwork should not be confused for the mastermind. Teamwork is getting people to act and assemble the things that you set out to do. Teamwork is harmonious cooperation that is willing, voluntarily, and free. Whenever the spirit of teamwork is in domination of influencing in the business or industry, success is inevitable. Harmonious cooperation is a priceless asset that you can acquire in proportion to your giving. Teamwork is the spirit of friendliness. It costs little in the way of time and effort. Generosity, fair treatment, courtesy, willingness to serve are all qualities to pay high dividends whenever they're applied in human relationship. So basically, teamwork is, if you want to get something accomplished, having a pleasing personality and work with other people can create that teamwork. Like we just watched the Super Bowl. It takes 11 men and sometimes 12 men to achieve that. You have a quarterback, you have a center, and everybody needs to play their positions. The next item that I want to talk about is learning from adversity and defeat. And that's a really powerful discipline to learn. And it's funny, it's also number 13. Unlucky number 13 is to learn from adversity and defeat. As I said earlier in the segment, is that your adversities are your stepping stones to your success. If you have an obstacle and if you can overcome that obstacle, is where you reach your most successes. It's really interesting. On a side note, a good friend of mine who's no longer here, but who had gotten in a car accident, had his greatest success in life after the car accident, after he became a quadriplegic. So, again, as I mentioned earlier, is when something bad happens, start looking for the good, and you will always find something good. Every adversity carries with it a seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. Individual success usually is the exact proportion to the scope of the defeat in the individual's experienced and mastered. Most so-called failures represents only temporary defeat that may prove a blessing in disguise. Defeat is never the same as fatigue unless and until it has been accepted as such. So learning from adversity and defeat, I believe that this earth is a world of strife and sorrow, and as Darwin talks about, survival of the fittest, so that if we can learn from adversities, we become stronger. The more adversities we have, the more we handle it, the stronger we become. And the next principle I'd like to talk about is creative vision. Creative vision is something that very few people possess. And that's to be able to visualize your success, to see yourself being successful, to seeing you have all the things you wanted, to have the goals, your family, your goal, your project, your diploma, whatever you set out to be. Creative vision is developed by free and fearless use of one's imagination. Creative vision attains its end by basically new ideas and methods. It is not miraculous quality which one is gifted or not gifted at birth. It is the quality that may be developed. It may be inborn quality of the mind or acquired quality, for it may be developed by free, fearless use of the faculty of the imagination. Our country needs creative vision now as it never had needed before. So as you read this book, start thinking of new ideas, of creating. And one of the things I want to leave you with in discovery process that I learned in life is that we are all creators. We all create. And every creation starts first with a thought and then the implementation. And so once we recognize that we are human beings that are really spirits having a human being experience, but as that spirit in that human being, we also know that we can create. As we're doing right now, we are creating a audio, something that you can listen to. Again, Napoleon Hill created this book years ago, his thoughts. He interviewed all these people, and now he created this book that you can read and that you can learn things from, and that you can go on creating. Again, all these 17 principles. The next principle that I want to talk about is number 15, sound maintenance of health. And this is so important that whatever we decide we want to do, what our definite purpose is, and we have the positive mental attitude, we need to take care of our health. If we were to look at anything in health in our life is, I put health first. My goal is health first. What you think about, what you put in your mind, what you put in your mouth, is that what you are? And if you get proper diet, proper exercise, proper thoughts, proper release, then you can become successful. So maintenance of sound health, to me, is one of the most important things, and this is something that is free. God gave you your life, your body, and treasure that. And I have a saying is, treasure the things that are for free, because God gave those to you, and anything that you paid for of material possession, don't worry about it so much, because those are replaceable. So creative, not creative vision, sound maintenance, number 15. The mind and body are so closely related that whatever one does affects the other. One does not enjoy sound health without health consciousness. Sound health begins with sound health consciousness, just as financial success begins with prosperity consciousness. To maintain health, a health consciousness, one must think in terms of sound health, not in terms of illness and disease. As the old saying goes, you have nothing if you don't have your health, and if you think you're sick, you are. Wow. Sound maintenance. Again, with your New Year's resolution, are you on track? Are you taking care of your health? I know a lot of people have a lot of money and they can't spend it because they're not feeling good. It's better they be healthy and not have money than be wealthy and be sick. The next principle, budgeting time and money. Again, principle 16 is something that a lot of us have not mastered. And time is money, and budgeting time and money is so important. And so people are divided into two classes, drifters and non-drifters. A non-drifter is a person who has a definite major purpose, a definite plan to attain that purpose, and is busy engaging in carrying out his plan. A drifter does no real thinking. He acts upon his thinking of others. Successful people ask themselves the following question: how am I using my time? How much of it am I wasting? How are you wasting it? What are you doing to stop wasting time? Tell me how you use your spare time, and I'll tell you how you spend your money. I will tell you where and what you will be 10 years from now. Powerful thing, budgeting time and money. And again, pick up this book, read this book, because this book will save you time. Napoleon Hill, again, he studied 500 of the most successful people in America at the time, like Charles Wrigley. How many people here have chewed gum before? The guy passed away and we're still chewing his gum. Ron Albert Hubert. Wilbur Wright from the Wright brothers. How many people fly planes? Ogden Amor. That's the meat guy. Let's see. King Gillette. How many people shave? He interviewed that man. John D. Rockefeller. Okay, we know about him, one of the richest people in the world. Started Planned Parenthood, still around. F.W. Woolward. Clarence Darrow. Alexander Bell. Woodrow Wilson. Luther Burbank. So he studied all these people, and these 17 principles is what these people said made them be successful. I want to go to the last one in kind of reviewing. 9 was self-discipline, 10 was accurate thinking, 11 was controlled attention, 12 was teamwork, 13 is learning from adversity and defeat, 14 creative vision, 15 maintenance of sound health, 16 budgeting time and money, and the last one is cosmic habit force. Cosmic habit force pertains to the universe as a whole and the laws that govern it. Cosmic habit force is the infinite intelligence in operation, is the sense of order. It takes over a habit and causes a person to act upon the habit automatically. Developing and establishing positive habits leads to peace of mind, health, financial security. You are what you are, and what you are, you become, because by your established habits and your deeds. So in kind of wrapping it up, there's a lot of good stories in this book here that Napoleon Hill talks about. One of the things I want to mention, everybody's heard about the rapper 50 Cent, and there's a story here about this child that wanted 50 cents, and I think that after 50 Cent read the book, he became very successful. I mentioned all the people that have been successful have come by reading this book, because this book will save you time. Different versions of this book out. And again, you can go to any bookstore and pick up the book Think and Grow Rich. You can go on eBay and get the classic books. Since the book is not copyrighted, you can pick up the book under different authors or publishers, different bookstores. So I hope you enjoyed this segment of Discovering Yourself with Fred. Every week, I will talk about things that I discovered in my life that made me be more successful. And this book, Think and Grow Rich, Positive Mental Attitude, the 17 Principles, are the things I discovered that will change my life, and I hope that it will change your life as it has changed my life. Thank you very much, and see you next time.